Good evening everyone, it's now 7 p.m. and I'd like to start the meeting of the Audit Committee. My name is Councillor Massey and I'm the Chair. This meeting has been held on 7 p.m. on the 27th of March 2025. I'd like to remind everyone present that this meeting is being recorded and we upload to the Council's website and the Council's YouTube channel. Item 1, apologies for absence. Have we received any apologies for absence?
Yes, I've had apologies from Councillor Alike and from our 2 co-opted members.
Thank you. Item 2, the minutes. Hope everyone's had a chance to have a look at the minutes. I'd like to move that the minutes of the Audit Committee meeting held on the 16th of January 2025 be approved as a correct record. Someone
Agreed. Seconded.
Thank you. Any comments on the minutes? No? Brilliant. Thank you very much. Item 3, urgent items of business. I've not agreed to any items of urgent business this evening. Item 4, declarations of interest. Does anyone wish to declare a declaration of interest? That's a negative from everyone in the room. Thank you. We're going to move we'll have all of the items that we've got in our report pack tonight, but we're going to move around slightly in the agenda just to ensure that the correct officers can be here for the correct items. So we're actually going to take item 7 first, which is found on page 173 of the reports pack. And it is the mid-year corporate complaints report. Can I please ask Tracy Heisler to present this item, please?
Thank you, Chair. Hello everyone, I'm Tracy Heiser, Head of Customer Services. So it's my second time presenting the complaints report as the complaints team moved under my operational management back in July 24. Since it's moved in, we've already made some improvements and we've implemented a new complaints management system called Information, which went live in October, and that's gone live for freedom of information requests, subject access requests, complaints, and will be going live with members on the 6th of May. We're also currently completing a pilot with 4 members in relation to a new members app, which has been something that's been raised over the past couple of years. So we're trialling it with 4 members from different parties, and we're going to see how they find using it. If they find it successful and like it, then we will try and do a wider cascade to all members, but we want to just let them get a feel for it at the moment first. So that's all happening. So we've made quite a bit of improvements already, and hopefully the introduction of a members app would be really beneficial to you because it will enable you to track all the inquiries that you've actually raised, receive reports on what you've put forward, etc. So watch this space for that, and the pilot's been extended for another 3 weeks, and once we've got some results of that, we will share the findings with you. Hopefully you've all had an opportunity to read the report prior to the meeting, so I'll just summarise the key points, and then of course I'd be happy to take any further questions. So the complaint reports run from pages 173 to 206 of your meeting pack, and appendix 1 to 3 summarise the top complaint areas and themes, starting at page 181, and children's social care complaints on page 203, and adults social care complaints on 205. So for the 6-month period that we're reporting on, the number of complaints was 1,080. For the same period last year, the figure was 1,030. Therefore, there was an increase of 50 complaints for the 6-month period, which equates to 5%. For the reporting period, 91% of complaints were responded to within time frame. The target is 90%, so this is above the target. For the same period last year, it was 85% responded to in time frame. So I'm really pleased that we're showing an improvement in that area already. During the reporting period, 41% of complaints were upheld. This is over the target, which is actually 38% of upheld complaints. But for the same period last year, 49% of complaints were upheld. So it is a big improvement from the same period last year, albeit slightly over target. Members' inquiries, we had a total of 2,588 members' inquiries. Of these, 2,459 were responded to this time, and 95% in time frame, which is over the 90% performance target. For the same period last year, 2,227 inquiries and 92% responded to within time frame. So again, the response target has improved, and the average time taken to respond to members' inquiries across all directorates was 5 days. All the details of the closed ombudsman cases are in section 5 of Appendix 1, which commences on page 181 of the pack. So, complaints and counter-inquiry trends for the top complaint areas, they're all detailed in section 2 within Appendix 1, if you want to have a look at those. And any high-level learning and outcomes from upheld complaints are also detailed within the pack. Obviously, we work with services to establish root cause for complaints and to identify the reasons for escalations and produce the top 10 for you, and that summary is attached for you. Social care complaints, again, are detailed in section 4 within Appendix 1. Really low volumes for the social care complaints, which you can see in both of those attachments. Section 5 shows the closed ombudsman cases and decisions, and a summary of those inquiries where the social care ombudsman and the housing ombudsman have reached a final decision. So 33 ombudsman decisions with 13 findings of fault, and a total of 6,760 was paid out or offered by the council for complaint resolution. Compliments, total of 1,208 external compliments compared to 1,170 for the same period last year. A breakdown of compliments is detailed in section 6 within Appendix 1, and I'm very pleased to say that the contact centre received the highest volume of compliments for the services they provide. So that's really a summary of the report, and I'd be very happy to take any questions that you may have in relation to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy, for your report. Well, any questions? Yep, Councillor Anderson to kick us off. Thank you.
Thank you for your report, Tracy. First question I had was just in the total complaints received graph. One area stuck out to me, repairs, because there's been a big drop. 24-25. We're only looking at, a couple of two quarters next to each other, and we've gone from 92 right the way down to 58. That's a big fall. I was just wondering if you had any idea what precipitated that at all.
I'm not totally sure on that. I would need to check with the service area. However, I have been doing a lot of work looking at repairs information, and there's been a lot of good tools introduced by the repairs contractor, which I think would help with resolution, etc., of inquiries. But I will take that away and update back, because, as you know, the complaints team provide the central reporting on behalf of the services. So the detail about the specifics, I would need to check on that one for you, but I will update and provide that response to you. But I have seen a lot of improvements with the technology that's being used by the repairs provider, if that helps.
Yeah, thank you for that. My second question, I'm not sure this might also be similarly challenging to our answer because it's a little specific, but on page 188, when it comes to voids, it mentions that we're looking to make a change, switch contractors for the voids works, and I was just wondering if we're not like buying ourselves out of the contract. Are we like waiting for it to come to its natural conclusion and then just looking for another supplier? I just wondered if you had any more detail on the way in which we're switching that particular contractor.
I wouldn't have that detail, to be perfectly honest with you, but I will certainly follow that up for you and provide an update for you. I'll look into that tomorrow for you.
And then the last one, just out of interest, obviously you mentioned that members are going to have a new system for members' inquiries from May. Have you got like a top level? What's I'm just interested as a member. What's that going to look like?
To start off with, the actual change to for members' inquiries to go onto information, that is just a system change for more the back office type function. So as we've put complaints onto the system, freedom of informations, etc., it will just look different for the complaints team. It won't look that different for you. The bit that would look different was if the pilot runs and the pilot is successful, and the 4 members that are trialling that for us think it would be good for you all to use it. Obviously, they'll try and motivate people to want to use that. Then it would look different, because you would actually log your inquiry directly onto an app, which then generates a process. It generates updates for you back via the app and so forth. But the bit about just putting the members' inquiries onto the new system would not change much for you, because you would still do your email to members' inquiries. The bit that would be the game changer would be if you decide, and it's entirely up to you guys whether you use the app. You know, that's why we're piloting it, because we want to make sure that it's workable for you, and we'll really take on board the feedback that the pilot members are going to give us after the 3-week period. So does that help?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you there, Tracy. Just to maybe help you, Councillor Anderson, this committee in the past, where we've seen high jumps in complaints or abnormal numbers that the committee doesn't quite like the look of, we've asked that department to come to a future committee, and waste and repairs were the last 2 I can recall since I've been chair. I know repairs went in a lot of depth of all of the improvements they were making in the service, and hopefully that's been reflected in the drop in complaints. And waste, we know there's always changes in the service and flux and different bits coming on board. And the one that I'm sort of spikes my interest, I suppose, is development control, mainly because it's got quite a high level of councillor missed deadlines in terms of 165 councillor inquiries, which seems quite high for that. So it might be something, how the committee feel, maybe we want to put that on the work programme and ask that department to come and see how they're doing and how they can hopefully lower these complaints going forward. Not really a question, maybe a statement, but any councillor comments or questions on this report? Well, I think the report's really well laid out. The data's really easy to read. So, yeah, it's really good. It's nice to see the numbers and the percentages. And yeah, it's good news to hear about the compliments on the contact centre as well. That's always good to know. Yeah, I think it's really, it does exactly what it should do. The report, we can go through it, we can see all the numbers and see the graphs. It all completely makes sense. So I'm really happy how you've laid it out. Thank you very much for that. And yeah, I'd like to maybe find out what development control and what actions they're taking to get that number down of councillor complaints in the future. So if there's any other comments or questions from members on this item? No?
Yeah.
Oh, Councillor Hull.
Yeah, evening all, and thanks for the report, Tracy. As you know yourself, I've contacted you myself because a few times now I've had it's not been within 10 days, memory inquiries been picked up. How are you going about, just asking because, you know, interested in that, how are you going about dealing with that? Because a couple of times I was told we didn't know which department was going to pick it up and that. So can you tell me what's happening with that, please?
I think when I updated at a previous ONS, corporate ONS meeting, I did say, and I asked for people or members to notify me if they were having any issue with delays from particular services with response. I'm pleased to say that I've had probably only a handful of things that have been sent to me, and it just so happens, Councillor Hurrell, that 2 or 3 of those have actually been for you, and I've then obviously escalated those. I did identify a couple of areas where the issue seemed to be, and I have spoken to senior management within those areas to explain that this is under very close scrutiny and that I have asked members to contact me if they're having any issues with getting resolution. And I think that does seem to have helped. It is very difficult because the corporate complaints and members team, they are relying on the services to actually answer. But what we are doing is making sure that if we do get a missed deadline, I am escalating that with senior management within that department. So I think it will phase out. And I think if the members app is successful, it will be so obvious from the reporting that's available where services are not responding immediately. So at the moment it's quite manual because we're checking if something's not been responded to and we're chasing that department. The app will enable that information to be available very quickly. So it will give benefits in that area. But I do take on board, and I think you have been a little bit unfortunate that you've actually had 2 or 3 over the past few weeks. But please, if you do get any, and that's for all members, if you find that you are getting a particular issue with a service area not responding, then please let me know, because I'm more than happy to follow up, because it's really important to me to make sure that the targets are always achieved and that they're improving. So hopefully that helps. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not criticism at all, because when you took on when you looked into it and worked on it, sort of, let's put it that way, within 2 days, all 3 have come back with answers. 2 in the first 2 days, first 1 day, sorry, and the other one took 2 days. But yeah, brilliant. Thank you for what you're doing and that, and it's great that someone's overseeing it and is getting it sorted. So thank you for that.
No problem at all. Happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you for the invitation. Members will appreciate that, because there is always certain times where we think things don't move as quickly as we would like, and it'd be nice that we know that there is another way. I think a member app sounds fantastic. I think one of the hardest things about being a councillor is tracking your casework and things like that, and then you'll get residents come at you, say, oh, you haven't got back to me about this, then you're chasing the officers. So yeah, an app to do that sounds fantastic. That would be really good when it comes forward.
The only problem with it will be it would have to be all or nothing. So basically we couldn't have a situation where we have half of the members using it and half not. So I think depending on how the 4 members get on with it, we'd sort of need to make a decision one way or the other, because it would just be too hard to administer using different processes for different councillors. But we'll see how they get on, and then we'll provide the summary of the information, and then we can make some decisions from there.
That sounds good, thank you. Councillor Anderson?
Just really quickly, the new app, is it only going to be via like your council phone, or will there be a desktop app as well?
It can be both. Be desktop, phone, tablet, any appliance that you've got, you can use it.
Councillor Penjala?
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. So that members app is work is going on back end, so that will be going to be available for the people as well, only for the council staff members.
It's a pilot at the moment, and then it will be, if the 4 pilot members like it, it will be cascaded to all members. If we get agreement to do that, because of course not everyone may want to use an app, and it does have to be all or nothing. But the pilot's already been going for a couple of weeks, and we've extended it for 3 weeks because we didn't get a great number that had been put through. So we have extended it, and we'll update, and then it would be rolled out across all members. Yes.
Thank you for the answer.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. If there's no more comments or questions, the recommendation is 2.1, that the committee is to note the report. I think we've done that. Are we all agreed? Agreed. Yeah, thank you very much, Tracy, and thank you very much, members. Thank you. Item 8 will be the second item this evening, which is the mid-year information governance report, which is found on page 207 of the reports pack. Can I please ask Andy Best to present this item, please?
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Andy Best, Head of Digital and ICT. I've recently taken ownership of excuse me, the information governance team, and we too have moved on to the information app for our freedom of information and our subject access requests. That has enabled us as a team, or the team, to actually bring in a number of automation improvements to the process, and has taken away a large amount of admin from the team and freed up their time to do higher value tasks. Hopefully you've all had a chance to read the report. I'll now go through and pull out a couple of highlights, and then at the end I'm happy to take any questions. So for the reporting period, we've processed 96% of the freedom of information requests within the 20-day legal time frame. Excuse me. The target should be 90%, so as you can see we're well over the target, and that is based on 567 FOI requests that were processed during that period. In addition to that, for subject access requests, we've had 62 of those, of which 74% were processed again within the legal time frame. We've also completed 25 data protection impact assessments this year to date. Most of those pertain to new pieces of software where personal data is held, and we currently have 8 outstanding. Further information for a breakdown of all the volumes can be found in the appendices, or found in Appendice 1. Are there any questions on the report?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Andy. Our recommendations is to note this one, so if any, based on that, is any member comments or questions for Andy regarding this? Again, I think it's another really easy to read report. All the facts and figures that we want to see are on there. In terms of the FOIs that have not that have been missed and things like that, what's the sort of next steps with that to try and sort of sharpen those up?
Thank you. So from that perspective, the team have reached out to the areas within the business that aren't meeting the targets, and they are putting an improvement plan in with each individual area to try and bring it up to the target level that it should be.
Thank you. I'm guessing no one ever sends a compliment for sending their FOI back to them on time. It's not really that type of thing. Councillor Anderson has a question, I believe.
Hi Andy, I know you can't sort of do anything about this. I was just wondering how long, like how much resource is doing data protection impact assessments taken up on the team? Because I've done 1 or 2 myself outside of council work, and I have to say they're very cumbersome, and they struck me as a bit pointless, and I really did not enjoy doing it. Is it taking up much of your team's resource having to do that? Because you said we've done quite a few and still had 8 outstanding. Are they quite burdensome for you?
Yes, we've got 2 resources that are fully assigned to doing DPIAs. One is full-time, one is part-time. It's not just that team, it's done, IT get involved and we do part of it, the business work with it, and we work with suppliers as well. So it's multiple people involved, it's not just solely on them to deliver it. They do get assistance from the relevant areas of the business.
Yeah, Councillor Hurrell.
Sorry, thank you for the report. So I was trying to find your name, but I've missed your name, sorry. Andy, sorry Andy. I apologise for that. The freedom of information responding within time frame, planning's the lowest one, 85%. I'd imagine because of the complexities, planning is always going to be the lowest one. Is that correct? I'm just curious, really.
Sorry, yes, it usually is for that reason.
I obviously thought it would be because planning, you look at all the others and they've all got their own complexities, but planning just seems to be more complex than any others. So I just wondered. Thank you for that.
I mean, looking at the numbers on the Appendix 1 for the quarter 2, I mean, 96%, like you say, 90% was it the target, so it's well above that really. The performance is very similar as well to last year. It seems that this data is all going in the right place and feeding back and giving us the right information to make, and it's not going up or down in any way that alarms me, particularly as the audit chair. Any other members comment on question on this? No. No, thank you very much, Andy. So the recommendation is to consider and note the content of the report. Are we all agreed? Thank you very much. Thank you just for bearing with me there. Just as the agenda is a little bit jumping all over the place, the third item this evening will be item 11, which is the Counter Fraud and Investigation Performance Update. This is found on page 245 of the reports pack. Can I please ask Michael Deneen to present the report?
Thank you very much, Chair. For everyone else, Michael Deneen, I'm the Assistant Director for Counter Fraud Enforcement and Community Protection. I'll introduce the report and then I'll happily take questions firstly from the Chair and then the rest of the committee. This is the 6-month Counter Fraud and Investigation Performance Update for the Audit Committee. In November 2024, a new strategy was approved by this committee, and attached to that strategy was our strategic work plan for the life of said strategy. And that runs until 2027. This can be found at Appendix 1. The work plan tracks the actions of the CFI in delivering the strategy across the council and covers such activities as communications, training and enforcement. The team had a successful first half to the year, even with an employee deficit due to a vacancy, with 12 social housing premises being recovered and returned to the housing stock. This allowed the council to benefit via cost avoidance to the sum of $576,000. The cost avoidance comes from avoiding costs linked to temporary accommodation, officer costs and affiliated costs. This figure is a nationally recognised sum that local authorities use to calculate the effectiveness of social housing recovery, because quite often it's hard to measure. In terms of engagement with the CFI, there were 123 reports of suspected fraud. These were either made by members of the public, members of staff at the council, or discovered through the CFI proactive work. When this paper was issued, the team were currently investigating 67 investigations. At that point, I don't wish to go through line by line, but I'm happy to answer any questions or any concerns that councillors have, and I'll start with yourself, Chair.
Thank you very much, Michael, for your report. One question I had, I think some of the numbers that we see here are really good in terms of the social housing properties that have been recovered. I just wondered, what sort of timescale does it take from a report of suspected fraud to that property being recovered and returned to the council as such? A rough indication.
It's really difficult, unfortunately, Chair. I know I get asked that many a time in this audit committee. On occasion, things can move very, very quickly. The information made available to us is so detailed that we can make a judgment call immediately, go and speak to residents or the illegal tenants for a sublet, for instance, and we can have a notice to quit signed within a week. However, other times we will have investigations that are prolonged, that require financial investigations to take place and for evidence to be secured. And again, those can take months. So I would love to be able to give you a time frame or even an average, but it becomes really difficult in this line of work to do such a thing. One of the biggest issues in relation to anything such as prosecutions would be time available in the courts, and that can take at the moment up years, to be quite honest with you. Trials could quite easily be well into 2026 now.
Yeah, I appreciate there is a real backlog in the court system. So when we're talking about 12 social housing properties recovered, we're talking about 6 months. That might not be necessarily out of the 123 reports reported in that 6 months. Is that correct?
You're quite right, Councillor and Chair. Some of those properties, for instance, could have been recovered in the very first few days of the new quarter and therefore received in the year prior. So a lot of our figures never tally up, which is always something that the Audit Committee picks up on, but that's the reason some of our cases carry forward into the preceding year.
No, thank you for explaining that. That makes sense. Councillor Anderson?
So depending on the stream in which suspected fraud comes in, I presume via the police, via a member of public, via council staff member, do investigations look different? Like if there's an investigation that begins as a result of a member of the public raising a concern compared to the police, do our investigations look different? Are they carried out in a different way based on the sort of source of the suspected fraud?
Thank you, Councillor. The only way that our investigations differ is the level of evidence that were initially provided. However, what the team will always work on is the legislation that governs their investigations. So we run our investigations in line with PACE and the CPIA, and therefore a lot of the work that we do is already governed and how we collate and collect evidence, etc. So sometimes the only way that our investigations alter is our starting point, really.
Have you ever benchmarked against other authorities in terms of, if we've recovered, 12 properties in a 6-month period, what does that look like when you account for population and the fact that we have a lot fewer properties compared to Essex, for example, or whoever? Do you ever benchmark and look at how we're doing compared to other authorities?
We haven't in the past, but it is something that we're looking to do in this year's first year reporting. So in our annual report that you'll get, it will look very different to this. It very much more is a presentation around a lot of the activity that we take, and within that you'll see year-on-year comparisons, as well as what I would like to introduce, which is benchmarking, like you say, to other local authorities that are a similar size. One of the only caveats to that is we never quite, everyone can't be exactly the same all of the time, and it does go in highs and troughs really in relation to recoveries, because you put in a lot of work, so they dip, and then suddenly you start to recover a lot very quickly. So depending on the time of the reporting, on that fluctuating scale, will depend what that looks like. But this year, the annual report will be doing benchmarking as well as previous year comparisons, because we've changed the way we're reporting now.
That's good to hear. I'll be interested to see that benchmarking. And then final question is, you mentioned that the team had performed well recently despite a resource deficit. If it's been performing well despite that, do we need to replace that resource, do you think, if the team's been doing the job without it well? And what is the resource deficit that you have, and what are the plans going forward for that situation?
Thank you, Councillor. We had a vacancy. I think it was in part Q2, whereby we dropped down. The team have managed to keep things on a kilter really, and keep progressing investigations. But I would like to see that recruitment take place, mainly so that it adds resilience as well as an extra investigator to conduct the investigations. We hope to exceed what we do the previous years, not plateau. So therefore, by having the extra resource that I sought for at the start of the year, we'll be able to get that now, and I believe that is going out for the 1st of April. So in the new financial year, I hope that they'll have a full complement of officers.
Just a quick question on the Eastern Counter Fraud Working Group. And I know it says it's still in development, but when it says eastern, what sort of geographical area? I know it's easy to say the east, but a bit looking for a little bit more to drill down on that.
Now, I am only going off the top of my head of what I've discussed with the manager who attends. I don't attend that. But that area will include areas such as Southend, Essex, the home counties, and then to the right of us as well. We have links as well into the London Ford Forum because we are a neighbouring borough. The manager also attends and is a party to those conversations with the London Borough as well. It's a platform where we get to share information and intelligence openly amongst individuals that know what to do with that information.
Thank you. I can imagine those sort of forums can be really powerful, really, as well, with the information you can share with trusted partners. That's good to hear. That works. Being extended even further, really. I haven't got any other further questions. Councillor Punjab.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Michael, for the report. First of all, I would like to appreciate the officers, those who are involved in the in the Q1 and Q2, both the combined over $500,000 we managed to save. I would like to appreciate for the officers, those who are involved. Here, if you see the combined both the totals, 123 reports suspected fraud were received by the CFI from various referral streams. Out of 123, 81 investigations were closed as no fraud, as no evidence of an offence was found by the CFI. Means this point, can you please explain me? So no fraud means because of the no evidence, or the unable to identify the evidence, or what is the reason? Just I want to know.
Thank you, Councillor. It's a good question. It's one that's often quite raised because I mentioned earlier our figures never really match up because the 81 investigations that were closed were not necessarily the 123 that came in. They could be investigations that have been running for months prior or years prior, etc., and they've come to a conclusion and they get closed in that quarter. So they would have been closed in either Q1 or Q2 this year, but they may have come to us in previous years. In terms of the term that I use of no fraud, that's where we can't ascertain that an offence has taken place by the material or evidence that's been given to us. So what we're saying is that we can't see a fraud here. We often get that in terms of things like a sublet, or an abandonment is probably a better one for you councillors to actually be told about. So in an abandonment, we may get contacted. No one's living there. They've abandoned their property. That's subject to the Prevention of Social Housing Act. We visit, and they are there. They're just not there very often, or they're on night. They're working nights, and no one ever sees them during the day, etc. That would be a no fraud. So there is no evidence of a fraud, although there was a referral for one that we had to do something about. So that's an explanation for the terminology of no fraud.
Thank you for the explanation. I have one more query about that one. Page number 248. The CFI are currently conducting 67 investigation. Is it possible to know how much value of the worth that 67 investigation?
I will get that for you. It is a figure, councillor, that I normally put on the report. I don't know why it's not on there, so I will get that for you and I can send that in an email. It's worth noting that we won't have 67 investigations running now, though. This is at the time of print and the time of writing, as it were. So what I will do, though, is for the audit committee, I'll give you a up-to-date investigation count with the value that's attached to those investigations. I will add a caveat that values of investigations change quite often. As we go through an investigation and we identify evidence, if the values change up or down, then our values will change. So quite often we're told that a fraud is worth X amount of money, but upon investigation it's either higher or lower, and that can explain sometimes why our values go up and down in difference to the number of investigations that we've got.
Thank you for the assurance.
Councillor Hurrell.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you for your report, Michael. Got your name this time. I'd just like to say something first before I ask the question. One member of staff short. I think it's obvious. I think that you want to get that member of staff back, because if you're one member down and then there's sickness or any other reason someone's off, the enforcement drops, of course, and we need to keep it as hard as we can. She's doing a really good job, I think, personally. The question, whistleblowing policy, how do the staff feel about that? Do they feel comfortable that they can whistleblow, that's the wrong word, they can talk to someone about this? Are they, like I said, do they feel comfortable they can do this? Do you know?
Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to tell you if members of the staff feel comfortable. What I can say is that the introduction of the whistleblowing policy in the last meeting, in November, that allows us to set out a clear framework for people to follow, and I must say it is a very clear framework. So it's not been complicated. It isn't onerous. It's simply contact certain individuals or email in. We have had referrals through that process. Obviously, I won't go into those. However, I am confident that the staff understand how to make a whistleblowing allegation and a disclosure. And I'm quite confident that if that was to take place, it would be investigated fully.
So I did have one sort of brief request, I suppose, more than anything else. So on the key actions and timescales, they're developing the web page, the Infinite for Counter Fraud and Investigation Team, which has been delayed now until August of this year. Possible for whoever the chair of his audit, whether it's myself or another councillor, just to put that in your diary, just to let them know if that's hit the target when August rolls around, please. That'd be fantastic. That's about the only change that I can see there. The rest of it, yeah, it's really nice to see all the risk implications in green on an item as well. So that's really nice to see. In general, Michael, you've been doing this role for a long time in the authority. Do you think, in terms of going back maybe a few years, and I'm not giving exact numbers here, but is there a trend going up or down of reports of suspected fraud in the first place?
I think the figures explain themselves, that it's on a downward trajectory in terms of reporting to, let's say, 5 years ago. However, we are seeing an increase since we took the CFI as a single internal facing unit. So the work that myself and Rob Kleinberg have been doing with internal members of staff and different service areas has meant that we are starting to see now an upward trajectory in referrals, which is a good thing. So I'm pleased that that's taking place. You always get an increase before you get a plateau if you're aiming to educate and push for reporting. So that doesn't concern me. The only issues that I have of concern is the criminals get smarter, and therefore so does technology, and we just have to keep fighting that fight in relation to different bits of technology and understanding where they're moving. And it's forums such as the London Fraud Forum where intelligence just of one case can be shared with a multitude of professionals, and by doing so we then play catch up and we start catching up with those people trying to take advantage of any processes that they can.
That's brilliant. It's really good to hear. Before we move to recommendations, any comments or questions? No? Thank you very much, members. So the recommendations are 2.1, the Audit Committee considers that the performance of the Counter Fraud Investigation Team, I think we've done that, if you all agreed. Agreed, yeah. 2.2, the Audit Committee notes the progress of the strategic work plan and agrees there were no changes proposed to the plan as found in Appendix 1. All agreed? And I hope you made a date in your diary for August. Thank you very much for that. Thank you, members. We're going to go back now a few items on your agenda pack, and the rest of the items should flow as they would naturally after this one. This is item 5, which is the External Audit Progress Report. Can I please ask Dawn Calvert to present this item, please? And I believe we may be joined by Ben Stephen from Ernest Young. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Can I just, has Satinder been introduced before I arrived? I'm sorry I was, that has. That's okay. Have you been introduced to the committee?
Not to everyone.
All right. So can I just introduce, and sorry I was late, I was at the ONS Planning Committee next door. So this is Satinder Jazz, I always get the Jazz, who's our new internal head of internal audit. So Satinder will be looking after internal audit, risk management, insurance, and I think some of the fraud team is coming over from the 1st of April. So we're hoping to try and get Satinder here to stay with us for a year. So we have that. You'll be very aware, Chair, that we've had a little bit of quite a lot of changeover on internal audit. So hopefully we can try and keep Satinder for a while to make sure we have a real good year of operation. So we say welcome to Satinder, and we'll be covering the reports. I am going to get John to take you through the first report, if that's okay. And we do have our colleagues, so we have changed our external auditors from BDO to EY, and EY are for the 23, 24 accounts.
And following 4 years after that.
Yeah. We still haven't quite finished up with BDO, and there's a little bit of reference in the report to that. So at the moment we're sort of still trying to finish it with BDO, and obviously we've got EY starting and we've got the two colleagues on the call. So if that's okay, Chair, I'll hand over to John to take us through that first report.
Yep, absolutely fine.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Dawn. Okay, so this report covers the statement of accounts for the financial year 2023-24, draft and unaudited, and also we've included the annual governance statement as well. So I'll talk you through mainly the statement of accounts because there's some issues to cover. So the recommendations are that the committee authorises or approves these reports for publishing.
Sorry, John. Well, I think we were still on item 5.
Is it the verbal update?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, verbal update. Apologies.
Thank
We
you.
don't have BDO. Sorry. Can we ask our EY colleagues if they want to do a bit of an introduction, Rhiannon?
Stephen and Ben, could you just unmute and just let us know that you can hear us?
Yeah, thank you. Good evening. My name is Stephen Reid. I'm leader of government and public sector audit practice across the UK. I'm a partner with EY and I'm responsible for the external audit. I'm sorry, I'm really struggling to hear the conversation in the meeting this evening. I'm hoping you can hear me, but let me pass over to my colleague, Ben Lazarus.
Thanks, Stephen. Yes, Ben Lazarus, also a partner at EY, and I'll be supporting Stephen on this audit now and into the future. We've had some early meetings with Dawn, John and others in the finance team, but as John will talk about in his paper, there are some points that need to be resolved before we can really kind of get stuck in, so to speak.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Dawn, would you like to add to that, or?
Sorry, just that we do need to finish up with BDO as quickly as we possibly can. One of the all right, thank you. So obviously we do need to finish up with BDO as quickly as we can. I think the main outstanding issue at the moment is the objection, and Helen and I are catching up because we've got to sort out some separate legal advice on that, and we'll get that done ASAP. So that's helpful. And then we're really just keen to work with EY. As colleagues have said, we've had some initial meetings, and I think we've got meetings next week, haven't we, John? And we're really keen to. So some of the areas that have been some of the challenges, like for example around valuations and such, we are really keen that we work with EY to make sure that we get them. We do it right from the start, or how we need to do it, so we can start to just get some of these accounts signed off. It's in our best interest now as we approach LDR and Devo that we start to get our accounts signed off, because as far as I'm aware, a lot of the other parts of the accounts are fine. It's just we've had the challenges around the investment, so we really do want to start to try and get that onto as normal external audit footing as we can do, really. Thank you.
I think as members would all welcome that 100%. Hello, Stephen and Ben, Chair here, just in case you can't hear me, welcome. one quick question. Is there a time limit on the BDO in terms of tying up loose ends? Is there been a date set where we are going to be completely over to Ernst & Young as such?
Yeah, let me come in there, Chair. Thank you. It's a good question. So, as you know, our responsibilities commence from the 23-24 financial year, and there are two elements to our responsibilities, similar to your predecessors. One is to express an opinion on the financial statements, and the second is to consider the value for money arrangements. Now, in relation to the 23-24 financial statements, as I understand it, they are just about to be published and go through their inspection period. So until that process is complete, then management certify them as true and fair, then we're unable to conclude our work and issue an opinion. But once that's done, we're able to do that in normal situation. However, given the open sets of accounts which are sitting with BDO, which I understand through discussions are linked primarily to the open objection, then until BDO conclude the objection and opine on the financial statements up to 22-23, we are unable to issue our opinion on 23-24. Similarly, in relation to value for money, we are unable to conclude our considerations of value for money and report until BDO have reported on their obligations in respect of value for money up to and including the financial year 22-23. So the sooner that BDO conclude on both the financial statements and value for money will allow us to really push forward with our work. Notwithstanding that, the 23-24 financial statements, given that the backstop date has now been passed, will be disclaimed, and as will the 24-25 financial statements, given the predecessor financial statements and the 23-24 and prior years have also been disclaimed. But nonetheless, as Dawn says, we are keen to get working with management in some detail in terms of some of the more judgmental areas within the financial statements and move forward as quickly as possible. So hopefully that's helpful, Chair, in terms of setting the context for our responsibilities and the responsibilities of your former external auditor.
That is really useful. Thank you very much. Would any officers like to add to that? Or? So just opening up to questions. And do any members have comments or questions on this item? Councillor Hurrell.
Thank you, Chair. Do we have any idea roughly when this time will be? Because it'd just be interesting just to know. Will it be? Are you looking at 3 months, 6 months, maybe longer, please?
I'm assuming that question was directed at me. I really don't know how long BDO are going to take to conclude on their responsibilities. We have been in touch with them and will continue to liaise with them as they conclude, because obviously we will want to, as part of the normal auditor handover process, access to their audit files so that we can complete our work in reviewing those audit files. But really probably more a question for management in terms of their discussions with BDO and the timeline they have indicated to management to conclude their work.
So we have to seek some legal advice in terms of the audit objection, and Helen and I are we're gonna sort that ASAP. So we need to get that, and there will also be some. It's a bit of a challenge because the 3 years of a council they will not be fully signed off by our audit as a true and fair view. So therefore, I'm going to have the same sort of sign-off challenges. We have to get some legal advice on that. So Helen and I are going to get that sorted ASAP, and then the auditors can have that and make their conclusion. Now, as far as I'm aware, that's the only thing that's outstanding. There were some MRP issues, but we sent off that information that they requested just before I went on leave, so there shouldn't be anything else. Now John and I are catching up with both BDO and EY next week. So, and Helen and I are catching up on first thing Monday morning on the legal advice. So it's in hand. We just need to make sure that's sorted as quickly as possible, and then it can get over to BDO to conclude.
Thank you, Dawn. Any other comments or questions? There's no recommendations on this item, it's just a verbal update. But I hope going forward, the update next time we have to go a bit further and a bit deeper and have maybe a written report so we can go around that. Thank you very much, members, and thank you very much, Stephen and Ben. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Moving on to the next item, which is item 6, which is the draft unaudited statement of accounts and annual governance statement 2023/24, found on page 11 of your agendas reports pack. Can I please ask John Chance to introduce this report?
Yes, thank you, Chair. A lot of the issues we've already covered, but I will go into more detail as to what we've actually got before us tonight. So we have the statement of accounts for 23/24. We have the annual governance statement that adjoins it. They both got the caveat of being in draft form at the moment, and we've heard for some of the reasons why. So what I'm asking the committee to do is approve the final unaudited statements for publication, and I can organise that tomorrow. There's the issue about signing the accounts, which I think we're going to hold fire for the moment. We've not formally signed off the accounts for the prevailing years for the reasons that we've discussed. We've got the objection, and we've got the disclaimer from BDO and from Ernst & Young. So what I think it would be good practice to do is to actually publish the statement of accounts and the annual governance statement as of tomorrow, open for public inspection, etc. And we'll wait to see how we actually finalise the accounts in the fullness of time. So that's kind of like the sort of housekeeping bits around it, of course, so we understand the reasons why the external auditors are saying what they are in terms of the status of these accounts and the contingencies that adjoin it with regard to the backdrop of the audits over the previous few years. Okay, that said, I've provided some analysis in this report to cover a couple of things that we wouldn't normally discuss when we're looking at quarterly budget monitoring, etc. I've given you some précis around the changes to the usable reserves and the changes to the unusable reserves, the sorts of things that are encapsulated within a set of statement of accounts that I think could be useful to members. If there are any detailed questions on those, of course, I'm happy to take them. And of course, I am also giving you approximately 100-page document as Appendix 1, which of course there could be numerous questions on. I'm not suggesting that you delve into those tonight, but I'm happy to hear what if you do have any questions on any of those. And anything that I can't answer, of course, I will take a note, because I'm conscious of the fact that it's millions of pounds we're talking about, and it's dozens of spreadsheets and mechanisms. We've got the 4 core statements, the balance sheet, the income and expenditure, the movement and reserves, and the cash flow, and all the adjoining statements that go with them. So it's an awful lot of work that the team have been working on. I joined the authority back in December, and we've finalised the accounts. And you may recall in January we spoke about indexation indices for some of the missing property valuations. So there's another issue that we've got to crack moving forward. So the indexation items are within these accounts now, and therefore we've got property valuations, but they're not as robust as we would perhaps like them to be. So there's some areas to improve upon as we move forward. And right now we're doing the 24-25, so we'll feel a bit more happier, a bit more stability in the team moving forward. So I think I can sort of rest there and see how the committee feel about discussing in any more detail, and anything, like I say, I can't answer, well, between Dawn and I, we'll come back to you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, John. Yeah, thank you for your report. I went through it at the weekend, and like I say, there's a lot of information, so I welcome that invitation for members to contact you outside of tonight's meeting if there is any questions that come at a future time. Councillor, any other members of comments on this? Yeah, Councillor Howell.
I'll do this again now, and I thank you for the report, John. Thank you. It's a massive report, obviously. I've looked through it. I can't say I've taken it all in, I'll be honest with you. because there's so many figures and everything in there. It's really good. I take it this happens every year. First, I've been in the audit committee like first every year. I take this happens every year, and it's really good that the details there in black and white. It'll be made public, and if anyone in the borough or even outside the borough wants to look at it, it's all there in black and white and that. So I just want to say that it's a really in-depth report on that, and I recommend that other people as well as councillors look into it and just see what goes on. There is so much goes on behind the scenes as well. That I feel that sometimes officers don't get the credit that they're due, and it's a really good report on that, and just say thank you for that, and I'm sure we'll all be delving into it and looking, and you may get questions in the future, you may not obviously, but thank you for the report.
John, I mean, I know you said that there's probably more in here than what would previously been published by the authority. I mean, is there any key standout points, ones that weren't in previous years, that are included in this one?
I guess in terms of the capitalisation directive, there are some real changes, and the unusable reserves are reflective of those changes in terms of the authority's recovery and continued recovery, and that will be the way forward now for some while. So that's a little different for Thurrock, of course, but in general terms, this is accounting convention in the public sector for local government, and there are legislative rules that we adhere to. And of course, the ringing endorsement would be that the auditors actually give us an opinion, but we understand the reasons they're not going to in this particular case, and obviously in the longer run that will not be the situation, and we'll hopefully be sitting here talking about a positive opinion over the accounts or some issues where we need to give more attention. So I think that's answered the question, Chair.
No, it does. And I was just going to just highlight an example of it on page 79 of the actual report, but page 100 of our report pack is the financial assets measured at fair value, and it lists a number of companies or investments. And we touched on earlier that these may be subject to change as things come through with material changes by the auditors. On that particular table, is there likely to be a lot of change, do you expect?
To be honest, Chair, I don't think we can say at this particular point in time. We're to coin a phrase, sort of selling off the family silver in terms of recovering from the financial position, and that's going to go on for some time under the capitalisation directive. So some of those things may change. That's more Dawn's territory, I think.
It is Councillor, so I can have a look. Is it page?
On the public reports pack, it's page 100, but on the actual internal report, so to speak, it's page 79.
Right. 79. Because what we've got is, I think it's fair. I'm just looking. Sorry, Chair. I can't find them in mine. Because we have got. I can't find the table in mine. I'm sorry.
Just while you're looking, I think it's really refreshing to see the level of detail. I'm not going to name any company names as such, but they're obviously going to be published anyway. But it's. I know there's been questions around some of these investments by members over the last few years. It's really nice to see that it's associated with numbers that's going to be in the document.
So what we've got is our balance sheet does look very different because we have had a significant asset disposal and divestment proposal. Now, a significant chunk of our divestments are actually now done, and I think so that we've sold them, so they will be off our books. But I think this is one of the areas that we do have to liaise heavily with the auditors about how we do value them, because as we know that's been the tricky issue, and that's, as I said, John and I are meeting with EY colleagues next week. And also what we will do, so it's helpful for you to hear about the transparency in July as well. What will be coming to Cabinet before we then kick into all the MTFS updates and everything, is we're going to bring a big full transparent report to Cabinet on the divestments, so the progress of the divestments, what's happened to all the divestments, what we call the tail end divestments, so then very small ones that are left, and decisions around whether we keep them or sell them, and also an update on the fees linked to divestments. So we're trying to be as open and transparent as we can around that.
Yeah, thank you, Dawn. I really appreciate it. Like I say, I've spotted a couple of things where it's questions I've had going back in the past, and here it is in black and white, and with green underlines as well. So it's very good to see it, and I'm really glad that we could get this published and get it out there. Any other members, comments or questions? Councillor Harold?
Just a totally different kind of question, really. Can I just ask the thinking of why Santander, sorry, I've got your name wrong, sorry for that, is here for 12 months a year? Is there a reason for that? Is it mutual consent, or is it just...
Well, as we know, we had Frankie here who left, so we advertised for the post and we didn't get any good quality candidates. So we had Satinder in, who came in as an interim person. Satinder's incredibly good. Come over from Deloitte's, been very helpful in getting us done a lot of stuff. I've been very honest with Satinder that I would like him to stay for a while. So we are just sort of liaising on that. So that's the reality, is that we tried to get a permanent post. What I would like in terms of the finance team is I want a period of stability for a year, because we have had significant churn across my entire teams, with the exception of Rebs and Bens. Everything has been, we're on this constant churn. So I would like a period of stability for a year, and then we'll then start to get a little bit of a flavour of what's going to happen on LGR, because it might be, if we do have some vacant posts, it might be in our best interest not to fill them all because of what's going to happen. But that's why Satinder, we're just liaising to see if we can keep Satinder for a period of time to have a really good run at internal audit and risk management for a year with a consistent person.
I know it's not my place, Chair, it's probably your place, but can we all welcome Satinder anyway? Welcome, thank you.
Actually, he met with Satinder recently, and we look forward to meeting in person and developing that relationship with the chair and the rest of the committee. So very much so. Stephen from Ernest Young, have you got your hand raised?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Just a very quick question. I may have misheard. I thought I heard officers indicating that they were looking to publish the accounts tomorrow, prior to them being certified, and then that would allow the inspection period to commence. I'd suggest officers check with the monitoring officer. My understanding is that the accounts need to be certified and published along with the governance statement before the inspection period can commence. And the first day is the day after the date of publication of the certified accounts.
Thank you, Steve. I just invite officers to comment on that.
So I'm assuming you mean certified by myself?
That's my understanding, Dawn. But as I said, I would suggest officers. I'm no legal expert, so I would suggest officers check that with the monitoring officer in terms of the specific requirements of the Act.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we will check that, because all the other accounts are published. So we will take that back. That's helpful to mention it. We will take that back and we'll liaise with Helen to check on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen and Dawn. Councillor Howard, any further questions? No. So we've got some recommendations before us this evening. So the recommendations, number one, for the reasons set out in this report, the Audit Committee are recommended to 1.1, approve the final unaudited statement of accounts /23/24, subject to any material changes being required by the auditors. Are you happy with that? Yep, thank you. 1.2, to authorise the Chair of the Audit Committee to sign the final unaudited statement of accounts 2023/24, subject to any material changes being required by the auditors. Are we all agreed? 1.3, to note that the auditors, Ernst and Young, intend to issue a disclaimer of opinion. I think we'll agreed. 1.4, note the contents of the annual governance statements for 2023/24. We all agreed on. Yeah. Thank you very much, Stephen and Ben. Thank you very much. That is the end of that item. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We'll sign off now.
Thank you, members, for bearing with me. I'm just going now to item 9. which is found on page 223 of the reports pack, which is the internal audit 3-year plan. Can I please welcome and ask Satinder Jazz to introduce his report.
Thank you very much, Chair. So just to caveat this report, not the greatest way to start, to let you know, as Dawn mentioned, I've been in the post interim for about just over a month now. Normally, when you pull together a 3-year plan, it would involve discussing with yourselves, discussing with all of the executive, senior management. However, because of the short timelines, Dawn and myself decided practically to bring something together, and then I will follow that up with detailed discussions throughout the year to ensure that this plan fits the council requirements. The key changes from the plan going forward from 25-26 to what you had previously is I've slimmed down the number of audits we're going to take, but I've increased the scope of them. So my proposal at the moment, comparing it to the level of staff we have, is to do 20 audits, circa 20 audits a year, and then we will do some ad hoc pieces of assurance, and I've detailed that in the table. What we haven't done is we haven't reduced or we haven't dropped any audits that we were going to do previously, and if we did, we will make sure we report those to you. So you're not losing out on any of the audits that you might have requested or management have requested. So I wasn't going to go into detail on this on the internal audit plan, but I'm happy to take any questions on this at this point in time before I move on to just the last part of it.
So yeah, I've got a question regarding the audit coverage on the internal audit plan.
Yep.
So I know we're splitting it across different time periods, and effectively I just had some concerns around mainly the area of cyber security and artificial intelligence, that they're only going to be audited once over a 3-year period, and I think it's such a fast-moving, forever fast-changing couple of, I know there's more there, but they're just ones that sprung to mind when I went through the list. I just wonder if maybe we should look at those a little bit more regularly than just once every 3 years.
Absolutely, Chair, and you're absolutely right. The dilemma we had for this year was there's a lot of what we'll call higher priority audits that are being pushed across that need to be covered that haven't been done in 24-25, and I'll come on to that shortly. I'm happy to add 1 or 2, and we have left a contingency for that exact purpose, and comments like that are very useful and very helpful. So, of course, we can take that back.
No, thank you. Really, very nice to hear that answer. And this should be something which, although it's a target and what we want to do, it's good to hear there is a moving contingency built in, that we can be flexible as well. I think that's really important. Comments on questions? Yeah, Councillor Anderson.
Thank you for your reports, Tinder, and welcome to the authority. Obviously, you've been here for, as you say, about a month now. And obviously you've produced this report. So what do you see as being the main sort of possible impediments to executing this plan over the next 3 years? Obviously, there's been a bit of comment about the churn that we have in the team. Is that the primary issue or challenge that we face? Is there anything else that you're concerned about going forward?
Thank you, Councillor. So there's 2 things. I think the first thing is absolutely what yourself and Dawn has mentioned. It's the churn, and that's probably the reason why, as I come on to the 24-25 status, why it's been a bit of a struggle to get to where we are. I think the second thing is to make sure we have service buy-in. So there's been in the past, and I think this is quite open, there's been a lot of challenges and a lot of people not following controls and processes. However, you can see this change even for the short period of time I've been here. And I think if we can continue to drive that change, we should be able to implement this plan.
Can I just add a? So I think what we're trying to do with this plan is, we know for a significant number of years we haven't been able to get through an audit plan. We haven't been able to get through the audits that we've said. So what we've tried to do with Tinder and the team is we're going to have 3 auditors. So that's what we've got in our team along with Satinder. And what we've been trying to do is make sure that we get a plan that picks up enough audits to provide the audit opinion, picks up the key areas in the organisation, but a plan that we can get done for a year. We can get into that robust of having a plan, getting it done, having some flexibility, for example, if you want to add other things to the plan. But we really just want to get into a position to say, let's set a realistic number of audits with the resources that we can realistically get and manage, because we have to be careful that we don't suck too much of our time out constantly interviewing. And let's just have a bash at, we've got 20 audits, let's do it really well, do it properly, get them all to you. We follow up all the recommendations. So Tinder's got some work later on that's confirming we're doing the follow-up of the recommendations, and let's just be realistic for a year. That's what we're really aiming to try and do.
I think that's important to go year by year. I mean, we also see the changes in local government and how that might change and shape and size and all different authorities. And that's why I think 27-28 is going to be such a busy year if everything sort of goes the way of the government plans in terms of devolution. It is going to be lots to do, very busy. Any other comments or questions on the police? Councillor Hurrell?
Yeah, thank you for the report, Cinda. Can I just ask, it's probably me, I've missed something, but 25, 26, and 3 years and that, it says at the end of it, total days 500. Well, obviously I found 365 days in a year, so how does that work? Can you explain just how that, how the table works, please, the numbers?
Of course I can. So 500 is the total number of audit days, so that's spread across the team. So it would appreciate there's probably 220, 230 days that each person works in a year, so it will be spread across that. However, because we have to put in contingencies for other work that the audit team will be carrying out, other checks which are outside of the audit plan, outside of the core internal audit function, that's the circle of how many days it will take to deliver this plan per year.
Yeah, I understand. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is something I'd like to see come back periodically to the audit committee and see the changes that are made, and we can highlight those. And we've obviously got huge projects coming on board, like the Lower Thames Crossing, which the government has given nicely to Thurrock in the last few days. So it'd be interesting to see what changes it makes to what the teams are doing and the resource as well, because that's obviously going to be more workload just for the authority anyway.
Will we bring an update quarterly to the audit committee about the programme, or how often would we normally do that?
So my initial view would be, for every audit that we complete, we will bring to the audit committee in the quarter that it's done, and we will give you a quarterly update over how many audits have been completed and any audits that have dropped out or have been changed each quarter, so you can monitor it.
Thank you, that's really good to hear. I'll be pleased with that this is going to come back and we can actually look at it. It's all great having this on paper, we've actually got to make it happen and make sure that, and like you say, if there is rooms to make any changes, if members feel it's needed, we can work with yourselves and discuss those options. Any other comments or questions on this one? No? No, thank you very much for that. There is some recommendations around this. So the recommendation is the audit committee is to review and comment on the audits to be undertaken, which I think we've done if we're all agreed. Agreed. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to item 10, the corporate risk register. Will you ask Tinda just to introduce this item, please?
Chair, could I please ask, just before we move on to that, there was a small addendum that I added in relation to the internal audit update. Yes. Hopefully everybody has that. Perfect. So just wanted to give an update on 24-25 and the progress made on those audits. So to start with, 17. So you've had in your October report, I believe you had a table that was presented to yourselves, which had 17 audits that had been completed. Now these were all in relation to the 2023-24 processes and controls. So taking a step back from that, we had to consider where you are with the 24-25 assurances. 9 audits have been completed for 24-25. I've added a list of that on that paper. That's the table to your bottom right hand side. Of those, my understanding is 5 have been reported to the audit committee. The other 4 haven't. Slight caveat to that is grant audits aren't always reported to the audit committee. I'm not sure why we haven't reported those, but it does vary council to council. So it's not something that I would say to be overly concerned about. Taking that all into account, the reason that we've presented it in that way is because there hasn't been enough work done, in my opinion, for you to receive a head of internal audit opinion for 24-25. And that's based on when an internal audit opinion is given, you would normally look at something in risk management, something in financial controls, and something about governance, be it corporate or overall. As a result of that, we've noted at this point, and that will affect your value for money conclusion when EY provide one. So I did want to make that clear, and hence why the plan we provided, the key area is to cover those three areas with some contingency for 25-26. So you do have that whole year consistency year on year, and you're not in that situation. The only other area I wanted to note on this was management actions. So what we have done is we've gone back and looked at all of your recommendations. So we haven't just ignored what's been done in the front, what has been done previously. The good thing to note is currently we did quite a big exercise, and all of the outstanding actions are from 25-26 onwards. So nothing is overdue at this point in time. I can't comment detailed on how some of those actions were covered from 22, 23 and backwards, but anything over that I've looked on, and I'm happy that they've been done appropriately. Happy to take any questions at that point.
No, I think it's a really useful overview there, and yeah, just please keep feeding us back to the committee and keeping us updated on it. But yeah, I know, yeah, I've never remembered multiplying bus services come to the committee before, so I don't know if we need to see it before us. Maybe one for the committee maybe to discuss. But any other questions or comments just based on that before we move on to the no? Oh, yes, please.
I want to congratulate first of all Satinder Jas for joining for the team, and also the report, the way how you prepared is really appreciated and like crystal clear. And the next future plan also next 3 years you have given on white paper, so it's really appreciated because people need like a trust. They want to see what our Thurrock Council is doing for them, because of the past history, people they don't have that much like a confidence. So with your work, definitely we will going to make some change, bring the change in people's trust. We need to bring up the people trust. So we will support from our end whatever you needed from us as a counselor. So definitely, because we need collaborative work in order to bring the change, to bring the development and good results. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions? Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, yeah, item 10, the corporate risk register. Over to you again.
Thank you, Chair. So my understanding is there's been a number of attempted versions of a corporate risk register. So Dawn and I have worked quite hard to bring you what we would classify as the first iteration of the risk register. Once again, apologies, it's what we've been able to put together from my short tenure here at the moment. This has processed through senior leadership, and what we are aiming to do, once again, this is going to be iterative, but the basis, the level of risks and the number of risks will remain between 10 and 15 because we think that's appropriate for an authority this size. However, happy to take any views on that. The risks that we've identified, I believe for this committee, the logic will be to ask you to do deep dives appropriately and whenever you feel necessary, resulting in us making amended changes. The background of this is we are doing a lot of work to drive risk appetite across the organisation. I think that's one of the areas that there's a lot of work to be done. And we will soon be introducing a new online system where directorates and services can manage the risks at their level, so we can bring together more accurate, detailed corporate risk registers without expanding this. So there will be when the mitigated controls are going to be occurring, and if they don't occur, why they're not occurring. So give you more oversight, in essence, and help you challenge better.
Can I just add? So we've Helen helpfully checked the terms of reference for the audit committee for us. So the audit committee is going to be like the scrutiny function for the risk register, for the corporate risk register. So what we're going to do is it's coming here tonight. It's going to council in April.
Yes.
Just as this is our first risk register, and it will explain that the risk register will come to the audit committee every quarter. So you will be updated on, and we'll make the font bigger because I'm just looking at this font thinking, goodness me. You will get an updated quarterly corporate risk register every quarter. It will explain to you what's changed, why it's changed, etc. And so this committee is sort of acting as the, I suppose, as the helpful scrutiny function for the corporate risk register. And yeah, so just so you understand that that is kind of the role of your committee. So you'll receive it every quarter. And as Satinder says, if you feel that this has been through SLT, it will also go to SLT quarterly. If you think, actually, we think there's something really big in the organisation that isn't on there, or we've changed something, risk has changed and you don't agree with that, or you want to understand why, then that's really sort of the role for this committee. But because we're beginning every quarter, it's a good opportunity for to have a good stab at this through this year.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you. Strange enough, I really like this registers. That's a sad fact, I suppose, but I like it, and I think that sometimes simple is best. And rather than keeping it, rather than trying to do lots of things that we're not going to be able to manage, is good. I do worry if it's a little bit too slim. And that's why I really like it to see it come back every quarter, because I think we can see then how it's progressing. And I could be completely wrong, and this could be the most wonderful risk register ever seen in a local authority. But I think it's really good that we test and measure and see what's happened, what works, what doesn't. I'd be really interested to see that as well. Like on some of them, I mean, for the members of the public, I suppose, just who might look at this on the website, just to know what the numbers mean is 2 that it's more likely. Because I know there's a rag rating kind of going on there, but I guess it's a rag rating, but there's no green. There's only red and amber and yellow. So just maybe a bit of a legend to explain to anyone watching in, because you have to read it all to make sense of it sometimes, to pull other bits in. But I think it's a step in the right direction, that's for sure. I think it's an absolutely vital document, and around risk appetite, which has been just completely, I won't say lacking, but just nowhere near good enough in terms of the appetite we have for risk, in this authority. I think this will be a really good tool to work towards that. No real questions, mostly statements, I suppose. But is there any other member comment or quick? I'll let you come back then, Dawn.
And so you're right. We should have put a little guide in there. Is like a little grid, isn't there, as to what the red, amber, greens mean. So apologies. We'll make sure that's in future, so you can see that. So I think this will work well through the audit committee. So I think this is a really good place for it to come, just so you understand as well alongside this. But what will not come to you each time is that Satinder is now working with the directorates to get their directorates risk registers working, which there'll be a lot more detail on them. But that is once again to make sure that they have their directorate risk registers. And the purpose of that is, for example, if in the directorates there is something really bubbling under that's getting quite serious, you might find that it pings onto the corporate risk register, as it should do, and it's held at a corporate level until that risk settles down or it goes away. And you might find that one of these gets less, is not deemed a major corporate risk and might go down to one of the directorates. So just give you assurance that this is not the only risk work that is being done. Now this is done and has got into a very a good state, and we can start to work on this through the year. Alongside this, the directorate risk registers are being worked on, and Satinder's also looking at redoing some of the risk training, because we did do 2 sets of risk training last year. Attendance was a bit ad hoc, I'll be honest, but I think on the training, and this was what Councillor Muldowney was explaining to us, it didn't really focus enough on how members receive assurance on risk, because really from your member perspective, you want to be assured that when you're getting reports and such, how was risk being considered? And I think some of the training was a bit more what a risk, etc. So what we're hoping to do, I think Satinder's going to do some more training with members, but very much focus on the member role. So when you're getting things, you're armed with, all councillors, maybe what some of the right questions to ask, what you should be looking for to make sure you can scrutinise things correctly. So we're planning on doing that. So it's just to give you, so we did make a commitment for last year that we get 3 things in for risk: a corporate risk register, the risk implication sections in the cabinet reports. They're in cabinet reports, they're now going into scrutiny reports. I think they're working well. I think now Satinder's here can help with are they being done as well as they should be? Because I think some are not, but at least people are being made to think about risk, and that's what we want to happen, don't we? And we said we'd also do the risk training, so we did what we said we would do, but now it's a case of building on that, and really, and that's why I wanted somebody here for a year to really have that consistent focus. So it'd be great, you know, that we can get through this year with reviewing this.
Can I just add to that? Thank you. And there's a valid point about not seeing any green on the corporate risk register. Many moons ago, when I was a lot younger, I did a benchmarking exercise across the NHS and across councils over their risk registers. And it was very rare to see any green. And the logic of that was corporate risk registers rarely have a green mitigated risk, because there's especially not so much at this level, but at the junior level, there's a misunderstanding that risks should always become green once they're mitigated. There's a consideration that risk could stay red, and that's still okay, because these are risks that you might not be able to manage, external factors such as climate change. However, no, as Dawn said, appreciate we can add a legend in, so it makes it simpler. But yes, if you feel you would like more risks or less risk, that's fine as well. And with the directorate risk registers, the basis will be, although they will be done offline from the public, you are welcome to review them once they're on, if in case you want to go delve into a specific directorate, and that they will be available for that.
No, that's really good. So this is overall, and then you can drill down into each directorate level. And as long as I'm the chair, I'm more than happy to have a monthly meeting and sit down with you and go through things like the internal audit plan, things like the risk register, and that'd be fantastic. And the committee can welcome to ask any questions as well. It'd be absolutely great. The other question I have before I hand over to other colleagues is the risk owners. Who decides the risk owners in terms of each risk? I know it's like devolution. It's the Chief Exec office, but it's the Assistant Chief Exec. Likewise for government intervention, Assistant Chief Exec, and these things are going to be massive. I just wondered who decide who that risk owner is.
Absolutely. So normally, depending on the type of risk, so adult services, for argument's sake, you would assume the directorate lead, so whoever the AD is. However, as this is in its infancy, what we will do in the SLT and between Dawn and I, we would work through where we think it best sits and discuss it with that person. So they could fluctuate. It doesn't have to be one person, but what we're trying to avoid to do is putting a name as opposed to a role, because we can put both if you'd like us to put both. The only reason we don't put the name is because if somebody leaves or changes role, it just makes it very difficult for ownership.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, it'd be nice to be able to go, right, okay, that person's responsible for that risk. I want to go to them and ask them a question about devolution or whatever the particular risk title is. So yeah, I get the roles change, but if we're updating this regularly, maybe we can update the names as well. They know senior directors are named on the website, so people can find out who they are anyway. It's not any particular, it's out there in the public on the website. Okay, so that's good. Yeah, like I say, really happy to help sort of as this goes forward. Any help we can do from member side of things to take that forward. Any other comments or questions, Councillor Harold and Councillor Panjala?
Thank you for the report, Satinder. I noticed on here that the inherent risk rating, there's 3 5s, which is long-term financial stability, government intervention, and homelessness. It's not a surprise at all, but it's interesting that you your team rate homelessness as really high up there on the list. It just goes to show in my mind the state that we're in with social housing and that. I don't know if I want to comment a lot. I just wanted to make that point, and that it's just right at the top, isn't it? It's a worry, isn't it, for homelessness and temporary accommodation. So.
Absolutely, and you're not the only authority where homelessness is a 5 on their risk register. To put that into context, the reality is, with the budget, with what's going on wider with the national insurance increases, homelessness is on the rise. So it is relevant to have it at risk because you're not the only borough.
And just to add to that, so when we did our updated MTFS for the next 4 years, where we put, I think it was just under I think it was £35 million worth of growth into directorates across the 4 years. The vast majority of that had to go into temporary accommodations. I think it's 16 million over the 4 years into TA. So, you know, it's pretty much 50% of the growth we've had to put in to the MTFS is linked to TA, hence why it's such a significant risk.
I don't know if this is the right committee for this or not, but surely if we could give someone a social house, or home rather, it'd be a lot cheaper than temporary accommodation, wouldn't it? Of course, but it's just being able to do that in it. So
Yeah, I think probably one goes over in scrutiny and ask them that one they might see. But it is interesting, homelessness. I seem to remember we seemed quite cushioned in Thurrock for a little while, and expecting, and now everything's catching up. So yeah, it's got to be there because it's a risk to local authorities in terms of the numbers and things like that. Councillor Pejala.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity. Regarding this, my question is failure to deliver effective adult services. The first Thurrock Council Corporate Risk Register, the first point. In that one, we can see the cause, what are the causes because of the increased demand for services, reduction in government funding, lack of adequate training, reduced workforce. And also we have seen that mitigation to control, how to control. They have given here, so just I would like to know that all this number of cases have taken into considerations from which year belongs to that one, like a previous year or current year.
So just to understand, are you asking the mitigation and controls are if they're this year? So these are more long. So this is one of the things that I'd like to update. So I'd like to have dates in there for you, so you know how long this is going on and when we'll get to where we are. So something to give you an example, something like colleague training plans will be ongoing. In terms of the mitigation and controls, these are from the previous year to now, and what I've identified with my team over what's occurring. So the logic will be that if they continue to occur, either the risk will go down or it'll maintain where it is, unless there's changes from the causes. Is that?
So progress is ongoing. Progress is going on, and
Absolutely.
you have a confident and you can give the assurance on that one.
I can give you assurance that there are mitigation controls in place, and the council and management are doing these controls, and these mitigations are occurring. To not increase the risk coming to fruition.
So just to add to that, so a lot of this particularly on this one as well is very much linked to what goes on around the financial and the performance monitoring. So if, for example, we saw a steady increase on the numbers, it costs in terms of social care, then what helps now is that we can start to correlate those reports and this risk register, because if our monitoring is showing that the cost of social care is ramping up very quickly, then that's either that this risk is getting even greater, or some of the mitigations are not working, or we've got more causes. So it's trying to sort of link a lot of the reporting as well that's going along in the organisation. So this is a very fluid document. So it won't be a point in time. It will be very fluid, and you will see things change each quarter.
Thank you.
I don't think there's any other comments or questions on this one. Thank you very much. I say another thing I definitely want to come back to for the committee to talk about changes and as it progresses. But in terms of recommendation, there are two. There's 2.1. The Audit Committee is to note and comment on the proposed corporate risk register, Appendix 1. I believe we've done that if we all agree. And 2.2, the Audit Committee is to note the improvements to the risk management arrangements. Agreed? Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. We're moving on to the last item, which is item 12, which is the work programme, which can jump around again in the report pack. Right at the end on page 255. So this obviously goes over the previous things that have come through the committee. This will likely be, barring any emergencies, the last meeting of the committee this municipal year. The only thing I'd like to see going forward that we haven't already got on there, and it's been a bit of a tradition with the audit committee, is to pick something out of the complaints and invite them to a future meeting. And I suppose my personal one would be development control, just because the amount of councillor missed inquiries compared to the amount in total raised seem abnormally high. I don't know if any of the colleagues want to support me or not be down on that one, but development control, I'd like to see it come, and we could ask a question to see why maybe those targets are being so badly missed and what they're putting in place to improve it for councils going forward. Any member like to comment on that?
Sounds good.
I don't seem to think it's too high myself, but obviously I totally support on anything coming to the audit committee because it needs to be looked at if you think so, Chair.
And if we could invite for a future meeting with whoever the chair of audit is after May. Thank you very much. That's a work programme. Other than that, just want to say welcome to Thurrock. Look forward to working with you as long as I'm the chair of audit committee. Thank you very much for everyone for the last year. I think we've done some really good work. It's nice to see some new faces as well, bringing some new ideas to everything around audit at this committee. Thank you very much, members. Thank you very much, officers. Thank you very much, Democratic Services, for everything you've done in the last year or so. And with that, that concludes the business of the meeting this evening. I now declare the meeting closed at 8:40 p.m. Thank you very much. Safe travels. Thank you.
Thank you all.